The American church really is gay.
Are you asking me out on a date?
Effeminate.
The Bible appears more to whisper when it comes to sexual sin.
Shallow.
I said, I want the African American 7.
And full of cowardly leaders.
Are we going to keep bickering over secondary issues?
America desperately needs to return to the Father. Either we fall on the rock and are broken, or we fall on the ground and are crushed under that rock. To fall on top of the rock and be broken is exactly the condition in which God brings reformation and revival. So which way is it, Prodigal America? Are you coming home to the Father? Join us this Reformation Day in Fort Worth, Texas, October 31st through November 2nd at Will Rogers Event Center, just days before our presidential election. And join with the thousands of us for the blessing of gathering together with God's people and celebrating God's goodness with beer and psalms. Hear from speakers such as Dr. James White, Pastor Toby Sumter, Pastor Doug Wilson, Dr. George Grant, Gaben Knox, Steve Dace, and more. Don't forget our Business Makers Conference, Jumpy Castles for the kiddos, after parties, single events, the Pastor's Luncheon, the Business Leaders Luncheon, and many more surprises coming. America has squandered her inheritance far too long. It's time she repents and returns home to her Father. Fight, Laugh, Feast presents Prodigal America.
Constitution, the law that's supreme.
That what we're starting?
Yeah, we're starting right here. Yes, sir. Hey, y'all, welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby, the Water Boys here, and Knox. Knox is not here still. Yeah, it's empty. See that empty chair? Knox is on a film shoot this week, so be praying for him and his family while they're apart. But excited to be here with you guys. We actually got an interesting interview today with the chair, the youth chair of the Republican Party, or co-chair. I don't know what it is. I got confused because I saw both.
We'll
have him straighten this out.
Yeah. Mount Athos Performance was created to support your quest for excellence in body, mind, and soul. Here on the Holy Mountain, we believe that true strength is not measured in mere gains, but rather in pursuing anti-fragile longevity, mental resilience, and a rejection of the soul-destroying hedonism of the modern fitness culture. I really like that. From energizing pre-workouts to muscle-building protein, Mount Athos Performance has everything you need to supplement the holistic foundation of authentic strength and vitality you are building. These supplements also uniquely feature the historic goodness of grass-fed goat whey made in the Pacific Northwest. Visit athosperform.com, athosperform.com/FLF today. Discover supplements built on purity, sustainability, and the pursuit of excellence. athosperform.com/FLF. Brilyn Hollyhand is the 18-year-old editor-in-chief of the Truth Gazette, as well as the chairman of the RNC Youth Advisory Council. He wrote One Generation Away, Why Now is the Time to Restore American Freedom, which comes out July 9th. Brilyn, thanks for joining us on Cross Politic, man.
Guys, thanks so much for having me. Big fan of the show, and this is pretty cool to get to come on here. I'm gonna be starstruck the whole time.
Wait, stop.
I've never seen him share the show.
You know about Cross Politic?
I do, yes. And when my publicist reached out, I was like, yeah, I'll go on.
Hey,
absolutely.
How about that? Man, that's kind of...
I have a young audience.
Awesome.
I knew of a 13-year-old who actually listened to us in Mexico.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
and my friend, I told you the story before, but my friend was in California. Brian Sussman, we had him on the show before.
Yeah.
Brian was talking to a friend in Chile. And he's driving down the road. And talking to his on the cell phone. He's like, "What's that in the background?"
Yeah.
And the guy in Chile is like, "Oh, it's Cross Politic in Chile." I'm like, "What?"
Oh,
like we're
goodness.
only in English.
The Chileans and
Brilyn.
Brilyn from Alabama. Brilyn, tell us about your background. Your kind of your faith journey. How did you find Cross Politic?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Let him talk about his book, all right?
Give us your
I'm
testimony
here
of how
to
you
do
asked.
for cross politics. That's really what I'm here.
That's right.
When did you ask cross politic into your heart?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead, Brilyn.
So I first got interested in politics during the 2016 presidential election, around the same time y'all started this great show. And it was really those presidential debates, ones between Trump and Hillary, that I first had any exposure to politics. And that was kind of the era that made a lot of people kind of disillusioned with politics, kind of step away from it. It was getting so divisive. But I saw that as an opportunity of, yes, this is a more divisive time than ever. Little did we know it would continue to get even more divisive, but we thought that was kind of it. That was as crazy as it gets. And I said, I want to get involved. I think my generation has the opportunity to kind of step up and unify this country. And that's what we're still working on today. So that was 10 years old. I vividly remember.
You were 10?
I was 10.
Like watching the presidential debates?
Yes.
I mean, I was playing Mario Brothers. Brilyn's like, I'm interested in this. Wow, that's incredible, brother.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I vividly remember doing a mock election in my school's elementary library on election day and all that fun stuff. I remember waking up the morning after the election and coming to the kitchen. I was like, "Did she win?" Because of course, when I went to bed, Hillary was still up in the counts coming in. And
yeah, because mom and dad made you go to bed at 8:00.
Yes, I had a bedtime. I had to be up at 8 in the morning. But yeah, we did that, and I remember also keeping my 4th grade class in from recess to watch Trump's inauguration.
Oh wow!
And they were like, "You're crazy," and I was like, "I promise I'm not. This is historic. You need to watch this." I was like, "There'll be some poems read. Somebody will sing a song or two. You'll find something to entertain yourself with," and it was fun, and we had a great time. So that was 10. It wasn't until I turned 11, July of 2017, that I finally was kind of fed up with what was going on. And forever, the whole time that I was in politics, I was like, "Oh, the country's bad, but don't worry, the adults are going to handle it. It's bad. The adults got it though. It'll get better." And guys, it didn't get better. And so July of that year, I finally had enough. And I said, if adults aren't going to do anything, I'm going to do something. And what can an 11-year-old do? You can't run for office. You can't get a gig on Fox or anything like that. But I did start an opinion column and started putting that out. And it was first shared on like a newsletter with 7 people. And it was really kind of my aunts, uncles, cousins, the people that were forced to read it so it wouldn't be awkward at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah.
And so it started there and it grew to where we are today. And now I don't just do commentary, but also have, obviously podcasts and all that fun stuff. A lot of interactions with social media. I've written a book and I do, advising work and obviously what you said with the RNC. So it's grown into this, and I still feel like I'm in this dream and I have not woken up yet. So I'm just pinching myself and I'm so happy. So it's an honor to get to talk about all of it.
So you're 11 years old. Obviously drinking a beer and having a cigarette with your boys, and like, I'm sick of this. That's it. I've had enough. And you put out your cigarette and you go write a column.
I don't remember it just like that, but it could be close.
It was a candy cigarette and a Kool-Aid.
That's right.
That seems more like it.
Talk to us about your role with the Republican convention. What does that mean to be the youth chairman of
the RNC Youth Advisory Council?
Yeah, that thing.
Yes. So since you guys are the experts on all things politics, you will remember the famous 2022 midterms where, I'll just say it, we underperformed. And there were a few months there where a lot of blame was being thrown around. A lot of fingers were being pointed at people or policies or actions. And I was kind of fed up with that as well. There was a second kind of turning point in my career. And I said, look, I'm tired of just being a talking head on TV. That's great. It's fun. I love it. But I want to do something and change something. Clearly, what the party's doing is not working. We haven't won an election since 2016. And so I phoned the RNC chairwoman at the time. And this is somebody that I've been critical of very openly, because, again, I didn't think the way that the party was going was productive, effective, successful, any of that. And I said, look, the DNC founded a youth advisory council in 2005. This is 2023 when we're having this conversation. I said, man, we're almost 20 years behind them. You say that we want to have youth engagement within the Republican Party, yet you're not even taking phone calls from young people. There's no, opportunity for us to meet with you. There's nothing. And so I said, what we're asking for is a youth advisory council, a standing meeting on your calendar, every other week where we can sit and have an open conversation. You can give us feedback. We can give you feedback, and we can take that and work until the next meeting and go from there. And she bought the idea. I thought that was it. I had pitched the idea and moved on. And it was a few days later. And she called and said, okay, I'm going to do it if you chair it. And so here we are, and it's grown into a 15-member council, and we have representation from all over the country, all different backgrounds, all different experiences, all the way up to, I think it's 35. I'm the youngest, so 18 to 35. And really, really cool opportunity to have people with, say, a social media influencer background all the way to think tank policy background. And it's really, really cool to sit at that table, to sit in this conversation and figure out, okay, what's the best strategy we can come up with together to win the youth vote. So like some specific examples. Obviously, the grand old party does not like to modernize much. We all know that. And that's something that my job is kind of to move us on along. And so something we did, I know you all remember those primary debates that happened just a few months ago on our side. Yeah. The very first one was in Milwaukee, and we were sitting at a conference room table in DC, and they're like, we're going to sign the contract with Fox. They're going to air it, and then blah, 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 blah. It'll stream on this and blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait. If it's just streaming on the Fox website, it's only going to be available for people to watch this debate if they have cable. Okay. Majority of my generation doesn't have cable. They live in apartments or dorms, and they need to be voting, and we want to get the message to them, but they're not going to see this if they're not watching Fox News at night. And I promise you, Fox News' top demographic is not 18 to 35 year olds. I'm just going to say that. Right. So it's like we have to do something to modernize. So I know you all are familiar with Rumble, this kind of YouTube free speech alternative. And I pitched the idea, what if we call up Rumble? What if we ask if they want to be our streaming partner? And they said, what's a streaming partner? Because again, the RNC, they've never done this. Like, this isn't a thing. Wow. And so we reached out to Rumble. They agreed, and they did all 4 debates on Rumble. We had, about 2 million streams per debate. That's 2 million more young people that got to see the debate. They would have had no idea debate was even going on if it wasn't streamed on Rumble. So that's 2 million more people that got to hear the Republican conservative message leading into November. So stuff like that, that's the whole idea of the council. Obviously, this fall we'll be doing some campus tours, and I like what we said, I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, so football is a huge part of my life. We'll be doing some tailgating and doing some fun stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I love it. It's great, and it's new and modern. So that's what we're here to bring.
So Brilyn, you wrote your book. I'm still just like an 11 years. I'm still having a hard time with the 11-year-old thing. But one thing I'm super encouraged about is just like younger kids being responsible at an earlier age and getting involved. That's fantastic.
It's actually like really encouraging, because I was thinking as you were talking, like I could imagine some of our founding fathers actually having a story like this.
Yeah,
most of our founding fathers
were like 24 years old, 25. Yeah,
they were like in their 20s. Like Benjamin Franklin was the old guy at like 31.
He was the boomer
or whatever. Exactly. And a lot of these guys, were going off to university and college in their teens.
Yeah.
So anyways,
and they were all homeschooled, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But Brilyn, we're actually, you went to a private school, public school? Were you homeschooled, classical conversations? What were you?
Yes, I grew up in a public school, conveniently moved to private school right before I sparked my interest in politics. So that kind of worked out that they're very, kind of lenient. I still turn all the same work in my peers do, but if I'm traveling or on the campaign trail, I just do it online. So it did work out, but also a big fan of homeschooling and all that, because I think it's so important to learn from your parents without the indoctrination. So not to pay advertisement in the middle of your program, but I just think homeschool is a great thing.
Yeah, well, we advertise homeschooling we advertise Christian school homeschooling on our program all the time. We got a couple corporate partners in that world. But you wrote this book. It's actually coming out July 9th. One Generation Away. Why now is the time to restore American freedom? Why did you write this book? You're 18. You're part of the RNC Council. You're putting your beliefs out early in your career in a way most politicians wouldn't do this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. It's dangerous for sure. No, so the way it kind of all came about is I've spent the past 7 years of my career traveling the country, whether it's on a college campus or it's at a convention or conference or, wherever we're speaking. But I cannot tell you, and I know y'all are hearing the same thing, but the amount of people that come up to me, Republican, Democrats, whatever they might be, young, old, saying, I do not have hope in the future of this country. I do not see, my children, grandchildren growing up in a free and fair America, which is so sad. And so this book is a culmination of those conversations, but also me listening to them and trying to give an answer in a book format. And so it's broken into 3 parts. Part 1 is how did we get here? And I'm a huge history nerd. Like I took AP US history and loved it, and everybody else was like crying in the corner, and I just thought it was the best thing ever. So the whole first section of the book is the kind of the historical context of, okay, during the hippie movement, we saw the leftist professors seep into higher education. Now it's gotten on to preschool. That's why we're indoctrinated today. The middle section of the book is my personal favorite. It's called Where We Are Now. And it's the modern day F words, faith, family, and freedom, because faith, family, freedom are all taboo in modern day America. And we kind of talk about, okay, what's wrong with the country? What are we seeing? It's not just, left versus right. It's good versus evil. It's spiritual warfare. And that's why I think it's so important to realize that, to recognize that, and understand that the left knew what they were doing. The left knew that they could attack faith, family, and freedom, attack this cornerstone, this bedrock of America, and flip the country upside down. That's what we're seeing today. So that's the middle section. And the third section is the battle plan. It's the strategy. It's where do we go from here? And I think that's the most important part, because you can talk and talk and talk as much as you want. You can complain as much as you want. My generation is really good at screaming really loud and putting trendy hashtags in their Instagram bios, and that's it. But what we have to do if we want to turn this country around is actually, promote change, promote action. And that doesn't just go from my generation, it goes for generations before us to allow us a seat at the table. We're not asking to take their seat. We're asking to put one of those little leaflets that you put in the middle of a Thanksgiving dinner table to expand the table, to give us the opportunity to sit and have a conversation. So everybody's like, why in the world did you write a book at 18? Like, you can wait, you have more years. Yeah, I don't know if America is still going to be free in a few years. If I wait till after college, who else are they going to be arrested and thrown into jail? What else is going to be happening? So that's why the title is One Generation Away, because not to be a doomsday guy, but I think we're kind of on the brink of that, one generation away from total extinction. So Reagan was right then, and his words are still timeless now.
So Brilyn, one of the things that, if you've watched or listened to our show at all, that, while we are, I guess, we can work with Republicans, a lot of Republicans are the problem. We've got the leftists, we got the progressives, and sort of the whole woke jihad, or whatever you want to call it. But there's a whole bunch of Republicans that doing the sort of let's just status quo, don't understand the militancy of what's going on, or are even defending part of some of it, saying drag queen story hour is the price you pay for
freedom,
free speech, or something like this. And then
you got things like Mike Johnson. He goes in saying one thing, and now 2 months later doing another. So let me come at you sort of with my skeptical gear.
Sure.
and say, so this all sounds great, but what are you doing that is different? What are you doing that isn't going to be sort of Lucy with the football,
or co-opted?
You get that place at the table, but then of course, in order to keep that place at the table, you got to play by the rules of the game. You got to, you have to get along. You have to compromise. What kind of things are you putting in place, or what kind of things are you arguing for or fighting for that's going to create the kind of ballast or the kind of backbone that is going to actually produce real change and not compromise?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that, because there's a whole chapter about in-house housekeeping. And I say, before we can address what's going on outside, we have to talk about what's wrong within our own party. And I start that chapter by going after people that are my own brothers and sisters. I attack, or not attack, but call out some people within the church and say, for too long, we have had these holy huddlers or country club Christians that love to sit in the back row of the Baptist church and gossip about how bad the country is, but refuse to actually stand up on the rules and principles to protect the country and defend Christian values. So first of all, we say, okay, Christians out there, this is your time to stand up. This is spiritual warfare. You have to defend, your morals and values right now, or they are gone by the wayside. And they're, we're almost to that point. So we start there. The second thing is calling out Republicans, like you just said, for getting in office and doing the opposite. And I think the way we can, prevent that from happening is term limits. But every single time you have a Republican run on term limits, they get in office office and stay, for 20, 30 years. And that just doesn't happen. So what I'm saying to my generation is, okay, all of us are in favor, all of us on the outside of the DC bubble are in favor of term limits. Haven't met a person that's not. But when we get in there, we can't compromise. We can't just sit and say, okay, now I've got the stock trading tips, I'm staying in here for life. Because we're just going to be in the same problem that, our parents and grandparents caused for us. And another thing, that we're constantly seeing over and over and over is, okay, the modern day Republican Party is trying to sit down and have a conversation with Gen Z. That's great. That's amazing. That's what I've been asking for. But we can't compromise on our Republican stance and our Republican beliefs to win over youth voters. We need to explain our stance. We need to explain our beliefs because we don't do a good job of that at all. We say we're anti this, anti that, anti that, instead of saying we're pro-life, pro-family, pro-freedom, pro-woman. And we don't have that conversation a lot at all. So instead of modern day Republicans that we might need to be wary of that come and just completely compromise to win over a few youth voters, that's problematic. That's when we need to get strong and defend our values instead of just kind of, oh yeah, we'll do whatever you'd like to do.
Are you familiar with the concept of like the Overton window?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was born in 1979 in Texas, born and raised in Texas. I think George Bush was one of the worst presidents we've ever had, unfortunately. But I think what has happened with the Republican Party is that they've been more about wanting to appease mainstream media. Now that's changing. They've been more about wanting to win the vote than standing on their principles. And so what has happened over time, this Overton window, the accepted dialogue in the Republican Party has shifted significantly.
Yeah.
Since, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. I remember Dan Quayle.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember his whole thing where he was mocked. There was a sitcom with a woman who had a child out of wedlock.
Yeah,
and he denounced it publicly.
Yeah,
and like Saturday Night Live and all the comedians just like
made fun of him,
just completely creamed him.
Yeah,
but that's an example of the Overton window shifting.
Yeah,
and now like it's a kind of it's a rarer Republican who would actually say that. Like out of
now Republicans are arguing for exceptions with pro-life.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
But they now it's like, no, well, this is where the country is.
Yeah,
and now we need to sort of conserve that. But the left just keeps hauling it left.
Yeah,
and then the Republicans are sitting there thinking, well, okay, well, this is the new conservative. Well, no, this is the new conservative.
Yep.
Well,
right.
I think it was what's the guy's name that he said that conservatism is the shadow that follows progressivism.
Yes.
Dabney. It was Dabney.
Was that R.L. Dabney?
Yeah. Conservatism is the shadow that follows progressivism. And I mean, you've got your work cut out for you, Brilyn. I'm excited you're there. And maybe you've already got some great stories to tell, but like, it seems to me that you're going to be in a place where, obviously you need to be, we want to be gracious. The fruit of the Spirit always applies.
Yeah.
But we also live in a moment where people like really, really hate the truth.
Right.
And you've got to be ready for that kind of shrapnel to be hitting you.
So my question here is, what do you think you should be doing, or what does it look like, strategically to pull that Overton window
back the other way?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so I think, in doing research for the book, I found it interesting. There's a chapter called "The Birth of the American Teenager" and how the term teenager came around when the invention of automobiles came, because that was a place, for teenagers to go, and sexual revolution, upticked and all that. But there was an interesting thing I found in a book while I was researching for this book, that it used to be taboo to say the word pregnant in company. That was just something you couldn't do, and now we're accepting as a party, children out of wedlock, and even going a lot further than that. So you're 100% right. We keep decaying our morals and values over the years, and Republicans are just as guilty of it as the left. And that's something that we have to defend. We have to protect. And so the way I explain it to people is, look, you see the problems in this country. You see that promoting this, promoting that, promoting this, being inclusive, it's not working. It's only making the country worse. It's making everything just kind of fall apart. And so look back at America. I know that the saying, make America great again, but look back at a time in history where you think America was strong, stable, families were together, everything was great. Divorce rates, were at their low. We didn't see this separation of families because, like we said earlier, it all starts in the household. It all starts in the family. Nobody was leaving the family. Everybody was together because you were learning your education. You were learning, your ideas, your values, your morals from your family. Then it goes into the church. A strong Christian church community always, produces a better generation. When we've had revivals, we've seen better generations follow. We're seeing modern day revivals. We're hoping that translates into, to what we hope. We'll see what happens there. That'll be a few years from now to see the fruit of that. But I absolutely think that my generation's ready. I think that, again, speaking of the modern day revivals, we're seeing that because they want hope. We've been told ever since we were little. I vividly remember in kindergarten class being taught about climate change and being told that humans are bad, what we're doing is bad, the world's a terrible place, we're evil, all this stuff. We're told from such a young, early age how bad we are, how terrible the future is. There's no hope, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And then the first time that these people are hearing the grace and goodness and gift of God, that they have the opportunity to accept that and have hope in Him. I absolutely think that my generation's taking that because they've been offered no other alternative. This is the hope that they're seeing for the first time. And I'll say this as well. I remember the summer of 2020, obviously, had a little bit going on. Yeah. And it was pretty disheartening every night on TV. You'd see, a different city being looted, rioted, burned down, more divisiveness than ever in this great nation. And it's only gotten worse since then, but it was a pretty rough summer. I remember talking about that in a Sunday school class at church one week. And the guy very brilliantly put it, and I quoted him in the book on it. He said, what you're seeing on your TV screen are lost people. Those are people that have no hope. They do not know, the love of Jesus. They do not know that there's a better alternative. They just think the world's burning, the world's falling apart. This is it. They don't know that there's, some greater place that you have the free gift to go to if you accept Him into your heart. And so it's like, it's up to all of us, not just to counter the political talking points, but to explain this is spiritual warfare. What we're seeing is what we were told would happen, and it's happening before our very eyes every single day. So it's so important now to start spreading the gospel even more because it's gotten in such a horrible place. So we're trying to couple that with it. There's a whole chapter in the book titled My Faith, and it's kind of talking about my spiritual journey, how I made it my personal relationship. Yeah, I grew up in a Southern Baptist family here in Alabama. That's amazing, but I had to make it my personal faith, not my parents' faith, not my grandparents' faith. And that's what we want for all of my generation.
That's great. I want to follow up on that in just a second. In Genesis chapter 2, verses 10 through 12, God tells of the gold in the land of Havilah.
Hallelujah.
And that the gold of that land is good.
Silver, hallelujah. Gold, hallelujah. Goods, hallelujah.
Thank you, Gabe. That was really helpful. Ever since the dawn of our father's world, gold has been universally recognized as true money and therefore the most reliable store of savings. Cross-Politics corporate partner Alps Precious Metals enables their clients to protect their God-given hard-earned wealth from the serious financial problems that are upon us. Alps provides the Cross-Politic family with the best strategies and solutions for investing in physical precious metals. As a result, you can enjoy a peace of mind that can be had with few other investments. Call James Hunter today at Alps 251-377-2197. That's 251-377-2197. Or visit the website www.alpspmg.com. alpspmg.com.
James, a trustworthy guy. He's a great guy to talk to about all this.
Yeah. Brilyn, I love what you're talking about there at the end, just a moment ago about the necessity of we need a massive spiritual revival. We need a massive a reformation in this land. And you're right. Historically, we've seen. I mean, it's arguable that the first Great Awakening in this country in the early 1700s was a big part of how we ended up with the country that we ended up with. You had basically a generation before a massive revival with people like George Whitefield and John Wesley and Jonathan Edwards and others. John Adams famously said that this Constitution is written for a religious and moral people, and it's wholly unsuitable for any other kind of people. We can't have the freedoms and the liberty that are intended to be given by the Constitution with a lost people, as you just described. My question for you is, so completely agree. One of the things that we frequently talk about on this show is that is absolutely true. And then the additional step is, and a commitment to studying all of the Bible to apply it.
That's right.
To the public square. And sometimes there's a kind of revivalism that has sometimes been in this land, and sometimes God saves people even in revivalism. But nevertheless, it frequently is. It's 2 inches deep. It's like people maybe get saved, so to speak, or have a spiritual experience, but then they're not discipled. They're not taught Genesis to Revelation. Maybe they get they get John 3:16, but that's all they get. And then it's like, well, praise and worship songs, and then try to do your best. And there's very, very little teaching on, okay, what does Genesis teach me about the public square? What does Exodus teach me about what justice is? What does Leviticus and Deuteronomy teach me about what God sees as justice? The founders of our country were steeped in that common law tradition, which was taking the laws that God had given his people Israel and then applying them in England and then in America. Are you, what are your thoughts on that? And are you seeing any interest in going beyond just, yay, Jesus, right. I'm born again, but then actually taking the Bible and applying it to all of life?
Oh, 100%. And so I obviously share several Bible verses in every chapter throughout the course of the book. The epigraph of the book is 1 Timothy 4:12. That's my life verse. That's the verse that I wear on a blue bracelet on my wrist every single day, everywhere I go, whether it's, on a Zoom call or it's, meeting with the President of the United States. I make sure that that's with me because it's something that provides me, I think, with strength. It's a verse that I remembered and hid in my heart, at very little age, so that, when I am in a moment where I am, anxious, worried, oh, I'm too young to be in this situation. I don't, I can't do this. Like, this is for the adult. It kind of comes out and you're like, no, like, this is his plan, trust his plan, and, find peace and rest in that. And so we introduce Bible verses throughout the book, but at the very end, we have an appendix A and appendix B. And I put a 10-step plan of, hey, if you're a young person or just anybody interested in getting involved in politics, or maybe you don't want a job in politics, but you just kind of want to watch, observe, know how to vote, know how to explain it to your friends. Here's a 10-step process to do that. And we provide, Bible verses along with that as well, because we're trying to get them, okay, you read this verse or two and then you kind of get into it and we know how it goes from there. Hopefully that's, something that you make a part of your daily life, that they're, constantly doing that and reading that. So we try to kind of drop it in every now and then to the point of you getting, used to it. It's natural to you and you feel comfortable, reading the Bible, learning from that, growing in your relationship. And, that's kind of the goal of that. So we hope it helps people.
That makes me think, is your crowd, your audience, would you say very, not knowledgeable of the Bible? Are they, newer Christians or whatever? Like, who do you think is kind of this, what do you think this younger generation makeup is that you're trying to, kind of call to arms?
I would definitely say newer Christians, or, maybe they've heard but haven't necessarily fully been explained the whole story. And so that's why I think it's so important to fit this in. I remember it's not the publisher I signed with, but a publisher I pitched the book to, in the process last year of trying to get this out. And they were like, Bible verses are in the book? And I was like, yes, Bible verses are in the book. There's a chapter about your faith. Yes, there's a chapter about my faith. This isn't an autobiography by any means. This is a book about saving America, but I don't think we could save America without, revitalizing faith in this country and making that, the cornerstone again. So yes, I think that that's something that we're trying to get to young people because, again, they're new to this. They haven't necessarily all grown up in families like we were blessed to, where this was, their upbringing. And so we're hoping to do that now in this phase of life.
Brilyn, are you familiar with the book God and Government by Gary DeMar?
I was just thinking about that one.
I've heard the name. I have not read it though. I think I need to read it.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend God and Government
by Gary DeMar. It's one of the, I think one of the best one-stop shops
for just a kind of a history of how the Bible actually informed the founding of our country and how far we've strayed from it. So, and it's
we call him Uncle Gary.
Yeah, but strongly encourage you to grab it for sure. But then it might be the kind of resource then you might also be able to hand off to other people that are you're rubbing shoulders with. But it's a very practical, readable history and kind of guide to how the Bible informs politics.
It's really cool.
All right,
that's the reason.
All right, homie, Brother Brilyn, your book comes out July 9th. Now, I got a pre-publish PDF copy.
That you didn't share with me.
No, I didn't. But it's okay. It's okay.
Brilyn, how can people follow you and keep up with what you're doing?
Absolutely. So my website's brylynhollyhand.com. If you wanted to pre-order a signed copy of my book, you can go to brylynbook.com. That's BRILYN book.com. It's also on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all major retailers. Comes out July 9th. To follow me, I'm at Brilyn Hollyhand on all social media platforms.
Yeah,
awesome.
I just started following Brilyn on Twitter.
Okay.
So check him out. July 9th. Thank you, Brilyn, so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, awesome.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic. And don't forget, prodigalamerica.com, our conference in Fort Worth in October.